I am Gaming Archeo, and welcome to this episode of Indie Archaeogaming, where the indies are independently developed and not the whip-cracking, snake-fearing, last-name Jones type. Today we're going to be looking at one of my hands-down favorite games from Ludum Dare 33, which is called The Mammoth, a Cave Painting. I vividly remember playing this game after the jam and being very, very excited about it, and I'm equally excited to play it now. Now that it's been released into the wild, actually, by Inbetween Games, the developers. I'll stick a link to the game so you can play it yourself. You can download it down below. But you can also go to a really cool initiative which takes some really awesome projects, such as the Mammoth, and it puts them up alongside their source code and some developer commentary, which basically means that you can take all the great stuff which they have done and you can sort of play around with it for yourself, which is something that I will be doing as part of my PhD. And I can't believe how cool it is that they've done this. So big thumbs up to the developers for allowing us to do this stuff as well. It's fantastic. So the developers of this game are Isaac Ashdown, Rafael Fedro, and Jan David Hassel, who, as a complete side note, worked on one of my favorite games of all times called Spec Ops: The Line, which, if you're kind of into like agency and morality and subverting player expectations and kind of being a little bit on the edge with what games can do, then I highly recommend that you check it out. It's not an old game by any stretch. I mean, it's an older game now, but I think it still stands like, it's still an amazing example of what games can do. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Anyway, I completely digress from what I'm supposed to be talking about. The detailing from the Mammoth site states that it is a game which tells you the 5 million-year-old story of the Mammoth in 5 minutes. Now, there are some possible issues in that statement regarding the occupation time of the Mammoth, which from my memory was the Galatian Pleistocene, which is at the upper kind of limit of 2.5 million years ago, until the Pliocene, around 6,400-ish years ago. If you were being like unbelievably super generous and focusing on like quite specifically Asiatic populations. But I'm not a Mammoth expert, so I could be completely wrong. But this is all in relation to like humans, human peopleses. But on the other hand, I'm kind of willing to let a lot of this slide because it's a pretty cool catchphrase. So here we are on the start screen, which is quite striking. There are these sort of hands, which you see down below, which is quite reminiscent of Cueva de los Manos, which is kind of like 13,000 to 9,000-ish year ago epipaleo site in Argentina. So the theme which this game, or the theme for the Ludum Dare 33, which this game was a part of, was "You Are the Monster," and so let's go ahead and jump in now and see how this game approaches that. Oh, I like that this moves. That's really nice. Nice feedback.
When the sun rose over the plain, the mammoth was there. The mammoth saw it first. The mammoth greeted it.
Right, so one thing that's really cool is you kind of have this really clear cave painting aesthetic, and it sort of rolls down into the playable screen. And everything in the game, like from the UI, which tells you what the controls are, to the playable character, to the narrative and everything set in it, is like part of that painting, which I think is quite a powerful thing. So let's walk this way. Can we walk into our mammoth friends? No. We'll follow the directional arrows. We'll follow what the game wants us to do. I don't usually do this. So this is a really nice feature, I think, that the game, as you start to do things, as you start to engage and play the game, it starts to tell the story as you do it, like very fluidly. It makes you feel like you're part of the painting, not just a player of it. Okay, so again, here we have this really great thing where the controls, or where what the game's asking you to do, is part of the painting. It's not external to it.
Mother and child were reunited.
So
had to find the herd in the east.
So again, we need to head back this way. But something which is really nice immediately is we don't have many stories about mothers and children. Like, it's not really something which gets examined all that often. And so not only, I mean, like, you don't often play as a mammoth in games either, so I guess there's that. But it's a really nice dynamic that the kind of, like, impetus for the story is this relationship, and it explores that through this aesthetic that we rarely get to see as well. So I think it's quite brave of the developers to go and do this. Well, come on, baby, catch up. I guess I can call to make it come. Yeah, okay. So if I call, it comes faster. Oh, and it calls back. That's adorable. Oh no, this is where my herd used to be, but they're not here anymore. Uh-oh. This isn't good. Oh no, okay, so here again we have this where it's tied into the painting itself. And we get, this is a charge motion. Okay. Come, baby. Oh no! Okay, oh goodness, okay, I just run them over. Oh, I feel a bit bad about this. They're probably just wanting food. They're probably starving, these poor people. No, not my child. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I do have spears hanging out of me. That doesn't seem hugely ideal. Oh, another baby. So many younglings. Oh no! This is a disaster. Oh no 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 no! Children, 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 children! Oh, that poor guy made a really sad noise. They make really sad noises when you kill the humans. I feel awful. More mammoth babies. Okay, I've got to be careful of my mammoth herd. Come, stay close. Oh no. No, 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 no. No, 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 not my children, not my children. No! Oh, that's interesting as well. Like, the humans just straight away go into, like, butchering the carcass. No, not my second one, not my second one. No, 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 no. Okay. I'm very protective of my mammoth babies. Poor things. It's such an interesting narrative though. Like, you have these hunters who are like the guy when he killed the youngest one just literally sat straight down and like started butchering and diving in. Like, these are clearly people who are like not just hunting for fun. They're hunting because they need the food. But as a mammoth mummy, I need to keep my children safe. I've already lost one. I feel appalling about that. Oh no, okay. Here's a lot of instructions to run things over.
So, the mammoth came to the village and the mammoth ran down their shelters.
Yeah, well, you killed my youngest child. I'm really upset now. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, there's so many of them. No, my middle baby. Oh, I need to keep at least one alive. No, oh no! Okay, so if I yell, it keeps the people back. Oh, but I can't do it very often. Okay, oh my goodness, this is nerve-wracking. I'm gonna lose my child. Oh no! Oh, this is a disaster.
The pain they had shared returned to them.
Oh.
All that could be taken.
Don't eat my baby. I feel a little bit bad about running over all their homes, killing all of their family, all of their children. See, oh, they have really, I didn't notice this the first time I played. They actually do butcher, they don't just eat. They're actually, like, carving or like, cutting out sections of the carcass. Oh, this guy's very scared. We'll just let him run away. Oh. This is devastating. Again, like, you don't get that many stories about like the loss of a child. It's not necessarily taboo, but it's kind of one of those things which is almost at the limits of play. Like it's not something that we're particularly comfortable engaging with. But you have this really fascinating story with this mammoth that you are a mother, and it's a story about your loss, or you're searching your loss. But on top of that, it's also a story about like the relationship between humans and the megafauna of the time. And kind of how, whilst it's like the humans need the mammoths to get the food and to get the stuff for their shelters, you can see that there's mammoth bones within the shelter structures. But at the same stage, the mammoth is just trying to just trying to survive, man. And it's actually a really interesting and quite powerful way to express this very complex dynamic between these things. Um, let's proceed.
The mammoth moved on.
Oh, she just moved. She
The
just moved.
mammoth found the herd, but the herd was no more. With no more prey on the plains, the hunters would be hunters no more. So the sun set on the mammoth. So the sun set on the hunters. So the sun set on the plain.
So again, like, oh, it's such an like I don't know. You can never know like what the intent of developers is, right? But it is such a fascinating exploration of the relationship between like hunter-gatherer populations uh, at the end of the Epipaleo and the megafauna and the kind of like that transition between hunting and gathering and being very mobile and being able to go out and hunt these megafauna as well as small things obviously as well. Um, and the move to sedentary communities and the move to kind of like having like domesticated animals and farming and that side of things. Now, obviously, the populations that we get shown in the game already had these kind of like quite sedentary places. Like you saw them kind of having these big houses, which they were allowed to, which they were living in. But you know, whether it was intended or not, it's actually a really interesting commentary on a lot of archaeological kind of topics, as well as it being a really fascinating way of demonstrating topics which we really get into seeing, which is one, anything out of historic recognition. We rarely see it in video games, so I'm so excited by that. And secondly of all, the story about a mother, a child loss, again, is not one that we get to see very often. So, with regards to kind of the accuracy or overall, depending on what kind of theory you want to follow regarding the dates of the mammoth extinctions and kind of like cohabitation with people, say, for example, in the Americas, it is entirely plausible that this game could have existed. It's entirely possible and plausible to make the argument that humans, if we're to stick with the Americas for a second, specifically the Clovis people, had a hand in megafauna extinctions by way of hunting. However, if you're to follow sort of papers by Jill et al., you'll be sorely disappointed because mammoth extinction, in their estimates, is set kind of 1,800-ish years prior to the arrival of Clovis culture. So it's kind of hard to participate in an extinction pattern if you weren't really, you know, there. But in saying this, the latest papers which I read about 4 months ago, this is not my area of study, but I still read because mammoths are cool. We're talking about a lot of kind of mitochondrial DNA analysis, and those would suggest that there is quite a lot, like a significant amount of overlap, but also that the environmental changes, particularly around the kind of younger Dryas, had a pretty extensive part to play in megafauna movements as well as megafauna kind of like increases and decreases in population size. To kind of backtrack a bit, the younger Dryas is part of one of the really big environmental oscillations. So like the Earth's climate in general periodically moves from very, very warm to very, very cold and back to warm and back to cold. And the younger Dryas is one of those periods which sort of coincides with a lot of megafauna issues in the world, which included during its period, sort of like 1,300-ish from memory, chill down period, which may have kind of overwhelmed, and if not overwhelmed, have greatly inhibited or greatly kind of like challenged these megafauna, or these things which had very set kind of environmental niches and environmental patterns. it might well have, yeah, had a hand to play in shaking up how they could kind of live in this world. But on the other hand, this is a really fascinating little story, which really tugs at the heartstrings. And from an archaeogaming perspective, it kind of tells the side of a human story which we rarely consider. Like I've talked a bit already about, it shows a mother and a child, or a mother and a child, and a mother and other people's children, other mammoths' children, I guess. And it also shows like a really complex archaeological relationship as well. But it shows it from a side which, like, I don't think we ever see it. We see the story from the side of the mammoth, right? Like, and you're made to feel something for something which you don't necessarily have immediate feelings for, which I think is a very powerful and very compelling thing. Um, and overall, if we kind of break it down for a second, we can kind of critique like the accuracy of the game, or we can kind of get into like bigger discussions about the authenticity and all that kind of jazz. Because we can see that there's been a lot of borrowing from a lot of different traditions, all the way across kind of like pre-human things potentially, all the way through to like very Neolithic things in some of the representations. But if we kind of take stock, this is a game jam game. It was made in 3 days. That's impressive. Like, it draws on an aesthetic of the past which we very rarely get to see in games. That being like the past prior to like written history. And whilst there are some potentially wide-reaching archaeological issues about how we conceive human megafauna relationships, the overall narrative and the overall aesthetic and the overall kind of way that these things tie together is incredibly effective and provocative. And I think that the fact that I can even critique some of these higher level, or like some of these more complex archaeological things is a real it really shows how good this game is in a lot of respects. So my own PhD, which is involved with actually making games, is one which will draw a lot from the style and content of narrative. I have personally learned a lot from this game, and I really hope that other Archeo gamers can also look towards it as a benchmark for inspiration as we move forward. So thank you once again to the developers for this fantastic game, and I cannot wait to see what you come up with in the future. I've been tracing your progress for a little while, and I see that you've got another game in the works, so best of luck for that, looking forward to it, and thank you for producing a game which was so interesting to play and to critique.